The informal ECOFIN Council meeting in Prague, EU finance ministers discuss the sustainability of public finances in the European countries, further development of the European framework for direct taxation to promote economic growth and remove obstacles to cross-border investments were also discussed. Let's bring in Mr. David Oliver, former UN Youth Delegate of the Czech Republic. Thanks for joining us this evening.
Good evening.
Let's start the Global Affairs Insider. Can you share to us your thoughts or insights on the recently concluded informal talks of the ECOFIN among EU member nations which took place in Prague in September this year?
As you said, Rayron, there were discussions about direct taxation, about internal market, and how to actually alleviate the obstacles we have in internal market, which is the main priority of the European Union. But on the other side, also it is important to note that this session was a follow-up session to the discussion at the ECOFIN Council Meeting on 12th July, where the ministers adopted 1 billion of additional microfinancial support to Ukraine. The main debate on this ECOFIN session was also about European Union and its contribution to both short-term and long-term financing projects in Ukraine, and also about how to, for example, tackle the energetic crisis we are now facing in Europe connected to the Ukraine war. My insights are that the meeting was very, very helpful and productive in this case, and Czech Republic is now actually currently presiding the European Union, as this is one of the reasons why the ECOFIN meeting was held in Prague as well. And Josef Síkela, the Czech Ministry of Industry and Trade, succeeded with his proposal to tackle the energetic crisis together in all the Union and to make a certain ceiling on the prices of the gas and electricity in Czech Republic, not in Czech Republic only, but in the whole European Union, so we can tackle this problematic together. So my feeling is, and my perception of the situation is that the negotiations were very successful and productive.
As a former youth delegate of the Czech Republic to the United Nations, how would you describe an average allowance of a youth in your society to survive each day? How much is needed for essentials? How much is needed to have some beers during weekends?
Thank you for this question. What is important to say is that Czech Republic and especially Prague is facing a big housing crisis as the mortgages are now really high due to the inflation and high interest rates. So the people who could afford mortgages and new apartments for themselves to live in proprietary ownership of their own are now not able to get the mortgages and to buy for their own houses. So this is pushing on the rental prices, as these people are now trying to lease now trying to rent their houses to their apartments. So what happened in the Czech housing sector is that the propriety and the real estate is on a, we can say, lifetime high. So it is really hard to get an apartment to buy a new one. Now, even the people who could afford it cannot, because the mortgages are really high, or mortgage rates, interest rates are really high due to the inflation. So this is pushing on the rental prices as well, because these people have to live somewhere. So now they are trying to go and lease the apartment as the lessees. So this is a big problem. But to answer your question, I think for rent you have to pay at least, like in Czech Republic, for one room in, I don't know, for one room in a shared apartment, you will pay around 7,000, 8,000 Czech crowns in Prague. It of course depends on the city and on the amenities, but in Prague you would pay around 7,000 or 8,000, maybe sometimes even 9,000 Czech crowns, which is, for comparison, around 300 to 400 euros. So this is what we need to live in Prague. And at the other hand, you have to buy groceries, you have to buy other stuff. And with the inflation, I think this is another 300 euros for the groceries for the whole month, or maybe 400. So we get to 800 euros a month with the groceries and with the living costs for your housing. And if you want to grab a beer on a weekend, then you need another 200 euros. Well, it depends how many beers you want to grab. If you want to grab a few, I don't think you have to adjust your budget, because the beer in Czech Republic in general is very good and very cheap. But if you want to have some private life, want to enjoy yourself, I think 200 additional euros are needed. So in general, the monthly allowance in Prague to live comfortably should be around 1,000 euros.
How does the EU member states view taxation within the region? Which is taxable, which is not? Can you share your insights on this overlapping boundary issue?
Okay, well, it is important in the beginning to remark that European Union has only limited powers in taxation concerning especially direct taxation. It is up to the member states to have their own tax policy. The power to tax is in the hands of the member states, with the European Union having only limited competencies. EU's tax policy is geared towards the smooth running of the internal market. So we need to think that when European Union is adopting any measures concerning taxes, it is always related to the single and internal market of the European Union, especially in harmonization of indirect taxation was addressed before direct taxation. So European Union has proposed many directives regarding the indirect taxation, just as, for example, the value added tax and etc. And European Union is not proposing many amendments and many legislative acts regarding the direct taxation. Not physical taxation of physical person, not at all. Natural persons are taxed by the member states, and the rules are made by the member states, not by the European Union. Regarding legal entities, there is only some harmonization, not to the extent of how high the tax should be, but only to the extent of, for example, some harmonizing procedures, so there are no obstacles in the internal market. But in general, the EU's power and jurisdiction in taxation is not very strong, and it's up to the member states to have their own tax system. This is important to clarify.
In the EU as a regional bloc, do you think that direct taxation is better? Can direct taxation further result to compounded or double taxation?
Well, I don't think that we can get rid of direct taxation. Of course, the taxes are always there's always a distinction between the direct taxes and indirect taxes. While direct taxes are such as tax from income of the legal entities, income tax of natural persons. Then we have indirect taxes, just as the tax from the added value VAT, or for some consumption taxes. I don't think we cannot, get rid of the direct taxation at all. Of course, maybe now with the crisis, as I said before, with the upcoming energetic crisis, the member states will have to review their tax policies so they can allow themselves to pay for other energetic expenses they will have if they want to cover the energetic expenses of the consumers, for example, in their country, or the energetic expenses of the legal entities and enterprises in Czech Republic or in any other member state. So they have to get the money from somewhere so they can pay for their expenses. So maybe we can expect some maybe increase of direct taxes or indirect taxes in Czech Republic or in the European Union as a whole. But as I say, it's always in the hands of the member states, and each member state will probably have its own strategy on tackling the newly incurred expenses regarding the energy sector.
What are your insights on the economic recovery of the post-COVID, or shall I say, the changing normal in the European Union region? What can we look forward?
in general, I think that the European Union was recovering quite well after COVID, due to the help of European Union and their subventions, and due to the subventions of each member states. I think that the European Union recovered quite well, but we cannot actually see that as now we are facing the other crisis. So, as I already told in the interview many times before, it is really hard to make the distinctions if we have recovered from COVID or not. Unfortunately, the recovery from COVID was immediately seized by the new emerging war. Well, it's not new emerging. All the conflict is there since February, since March. So unfortunately, we cannot see the numbers properly if we have recovered, because now we are facing another crisis. But in general, I think the member states are doing a good job in approaching this issue altogether and globally as a block of the European Union member states and not on their own.
Mr. David Oliver, former UN Youth Delegate of the Czech Republic to the United Nations, thank you.
Thank you so much.
This is Rayron Del Rosario. That's the Global Affairs Insider. Follow us to our next episode only here in IPDCI News Channel.